Alright guys, this is our last unit of the year on the 1990s and 2000s, and we will start off with a slide here on the problems here at home. And we will begin with the 1992 presidential election. We got three main players here in this one, and we'll say a word or two here about each one of them. The Republicans are going to nominate President George H.W. Bush, again, this is the father, for re-election. Okay. The Democrats are going to nominate Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton. And our third candidate here, you see the picture here in the top left. There's Bush right there, there's Clinton right there, and our third candidate is this little guy right here. Texas billionaire businessman Ross Perot. It looks like Parrot, but it's pronounced Perot, Ross Perot. And he would enter the campaign strictly on a platform of fixing the economy. The economy was a mess in the late 80s, early 90s. It didn't get a lot better under Bush. And Perot is going to capitalize on that and get in with the argument that he is a businessman and it takes a businessman to fix the economy. So he is this short little man. When they had debates, he had to stand on a little box behind his podium so he didn't look tiny compared to everybody else. But he's a short little man. That's hence the picture here on the Time magazine cover. And he talked with a real high, squeaky voice in a southern accent. So he talked like this. He said, "Do you hear that giant sucking sound? That's your job. It's going to Mexico." So he had this little high, squeaky voice and a southern drawl. Funny little guy, but a brilliant businessman. And he will actually do pretty well. He doesn't win any electoral votes, but he gets more popular votes, a higher percentage, than any independent candidate since Teddy Roosevelt in 1912. So a lot of people bought into the argument that if the economy's bad, put a businessman in charge of fixing it. Okay? But Clinton will win here. Not only the Democrats will win the White House, they'll win both houses of Congress. Okay? Clinton would become our first baby boomer president. He campaigned on being strong on crime, strong on defense, not a typical Democratic position. So he won over a lot of Republicans, claimed that he would reform the welfare system, and specifically, he was going to overhaul the healthcare system in the country. So let's talk about that next. Clinton wins a lot of votes mainly because he says he's going to fix healthcare in the country. And once he is in office, it becomes the first item on his agenda, healthcare reform. And he appoints his wife, Hillary Clinton, to head up this Healthcare Reform Act. Even though she has no experience in healthcare, she has no experience in insurance. One of the problems with healthcare was overhauling insurance system. She had no experience in either of those areas, but she's put in charge. This thing is doomed from the beginning. It is extremely expensive. And even though he had a Democratic Congress to work with, Congress would not approve it because it was going to cost so much to do this. So, sorry, forgot to highlight her name there. But Hillary will kind of oversee this doomed healthcare in the country. Okay. Now, we will see also a couple of tragedies here in the U.S. during this time. And let's start by talking about a group here, a fundamentalist cult, if you want to call it, known as the Branch Davidians. Okay, the Branch Davidians. They are based in Waco, Texas. Okay? Things begin when FBI agents try to serve a warrant for the leader of the cult, a man named David Koresh, at their compound in Waco. Koresh had convinced his followers that the FBI were coming to get them, so they fired on FBI agents. 4 FBI agents were killed, 6 Davidians were killed at this initial standoff. Okay? Once that violence breaks out, the FBI surrounds the compound and launches a 50-day siege of the compound, trying to starve them out. But these people had prepared for this. They were more than well prepared and stocked. For 50 days, though, the FBI surrounded the compound, and a second attack was launched by the FBI. And again, depending on who you believe, either the FBI during their attack started a fire in the compound, or fire just broke out in the compound, one of the two. But regardless of how it started, fire breaks out in the compound. 76 men, women, and children are killed, including their leader, David Koresh. Right? So he got 76 dead in this second attack. The FBI looks very bad here. Right? Now, in response to the attack on the Branch Davidians at Waco, we have a second tragedy, this one in Oklahoma City. The federal government building in Oklahoma City was bombed by domestic terrorists, meaning these are American citizens here. These are Americans attacking an American federal government building. 2 men were found responsible, Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. McVeigh was the one who actually did the bombing, and this is his picture here. Nichols helped him plan it, gather the materials, build the bombs, and all that. But it's McVeigh who carries out the bombings on the federal government building in Oklahoma City. This is 1995. Waco was 93, so 2 years later, 1995. 168 people were killed in the bombing in Oklahoma City, many of them children. Where the bomb sets off, it's near a corner of the building where a preschool is located inside the building for children of federal workers there. So a lot of those 168 were children. McVeigh was, both of them were arrested. Nichols was sentenced to life in prison. McVeigh was executed. That is followed up by our third tragedy here. In April 1999, 2 students at Columbine High School in Colorado, you see their pictures there, 2 students will shoot and kill 12 fellow students and a teacher at Columbine High School. They apparently have been the victims of bullying at their high school and saw this as the ultimate chance to get even. They entered the school building with guns and shot and killed 12 students and a teacher before they were able to be subdued. Okay. So we've got 3 very, very bad tragedies here in the 90s. A lot of problems at home. This last one may not seem like much of a problem, but it's going to be later on. President Clinton supported 2 organizations, or 2 bills here. One known as Nafta, which stands for the North America Free Trade Agreement. North America Free Trade Agreement that promoted free trade, tax-free trade between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. 3 big countries in North America here. So those countries would be able to trade with each other without having to pay taxes on them. Okay. Clinton also supported membership in the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and countries that joined the World Trade Organization would be able to trade with each other tax-free. Now, this seems like a great deal, but the problem is that the reason American companies built things in America was so they didn't have to pay taxes on it to get it into the country. If you eliminate taxes on trade between Mexico, Canada, and the United States, American companies start moving their factories to Mexico because they can build things cheaper in Mexico and not have to pay tax to get it into the country, which is great for the owners of those countries, or companies, sorry. Problem is, it put American workers out of business as they lost their jobs to Mexican workers. So while it's good for the country in terms of imports, exports, and all that, it's bad for American workers. And that's going to come back to really kind of bite Clinton. All right, so much for our problems at home. Next, we'll look at some conflicts not only at home, but abroad as well.